What's up, my comic comrades? It's been a minute since we covered Absolute Wonder Woman, and we're going to be bringing you a catch-up episode through issue 14 later in November. But we're going to start by giving you her complete origin, which is laid out in issues 1 through 7. So let's get right into it, shall we?
Wonder Woman issue 1 starts off with two news reporters on a balcony scared to death at the fact that they're looking at an unidentified flying object. One of the reporters then gets up enough courage to stand and start reporting on it as he says, "We're here just beyond the Gateway City Boardwalk filming from an unsecured location to bring you the sight of a literal unidentified flying object on our doorstep. Local police and a growing military force are evacuating the immediate, but before he can finish his sentence, creatures start flying out of the upside-down floating pyramid." Then on the next page, we see Absolute Wonder Woman for the first time flying on the skeleton of a Pegasus, a dark Pegasus you might call it. She then pulls out her gigantic sword and starts taking down a bunch of these flying creatures. And as she's flying around hacking these demons apart, captions tell us, once upon a time there was a princess, and the princess had all the gifts any princess could hope to have: beauty, grace, compassion, kindness, and wisdom. We then see Absolute Wonder Woman use her iconic bracelet energy blast on the creatures, annihilating dozens of them. Captions then continue to tell us this princess had the ability to outrun a hellhound and conjure the darkest of magics, things every princess needs when she was raised in hell. The book then flashes back 2 years in the past to the wild Isle of Hell, prison of the great sorceress Circe. We then see Circe saying to herself, "Once I ruled a remote paradise called Aiea. Now I am a prisoner of a solitary wasteland. Never let it be said that the gods do not have a sharp sense of humor." But all of a sudden, Apollo appears saying, "Come forward, witch. You may kneel." But Circe responds by saying, "I'm fine." Apollo then tells her, "Defiant even in hell. Perhaps that is what got you here." He then hands her a baby saying, "This is yours now." She holds up the baby girl and asks, "Why have you brought a baby to hell?" He tells her, "This baby is Diana, Princess of Themyscira. She is the last of the Amazons, and she has been taken from them by my father Zeus as punishment for their crimes against the gods. Her home is now hell, and you are her warden. She may never again be reunited with her Amazon sisters, and they will be imprisoned for eternity when their service to my father ends." Which seems like a bit of a contradiction considering he started by telling her she's the last of the Amazons. So how could she be reunited with people that no longer exist? Anyway, he goes on to say, "You may never say the word Amazon again." Circe then thinks to herself, he's trying to hide it, but he's afraid of her. Why? As Apollo yells, "From here on, the word Amazon is banned, so I decree. Try it for me, Circe. Try to say the word, I want to see." She then obliges and tries, but can't say it. So please, Apollo then goes to leave, but she asks, "This is hell. What if it dies?" But Apollo just responds by saying, "The gods care not. This is where she belongs now, for however long she is." So Circe just puts the baby down and doesn't care if she dies or not. At this point, she basically takes the position of, "I'm no mother, and since I wasn't tasked with keeping her alive, this will just take care of itself, I suppose." But as Circe is leaving her there, a poisonous snake crawls up to Diana looking to take a bite. A still suspicious Circe says to herself, "Perhaps the gods are not so willing to leave things to chance. Can't say I care that much, but will the gods send one thing after another to kill the child until it's done? If they do, she's doomed whether I take interest or not." But as Circe is saying all of this to herself, Diana just grabs the snake by the head, coos at it, and then chucks it, which, as you might imagine, really impresses Circe. From here we see a little fire lizard come up to Diana and blow fire on her, but it doesn't faze her. So she just picks up the lizard and pets it before letting it go. Little moments like this cause Circe to fall in love with Diana over time, and she becomes a mother to her, raising her as her own. We then see captions of Circe's thoughts tell us, "Plenty of things tried to kill her, yes, but there was no overwhelming force of creatures bent on her destruction as I feared, and she had a quality that softened even the most treacherous beast." And I don't just mean all the little creatures and demons and lost souls that drifted to her. How do you fall in love with a child? It's by raising it. Now, as the issue goes on, we see Circe and Diana have built a home for themselves in hell, which is odd to say. But what was once just an ordinary mud cave is now a cave with beds, candles, a bookcase full of books, carpets, plants, and even a makeshift kitchen. Circe effectively made it a place to raise a child where a family can live. She even teaches Diana magic, and as Diana grows, we see their home looking more and more like an actual apartment. And as the panels roll on, we see Diana continue to grow in the art of magic and as a warrior. At one point, we even see Diana capture and defeat a hellhound, the same creatures we saw flying at the beginning of the issue. She then asks her mother, where did it come from? They rarely appear on the island this time of year. Circe just responds, I don't know. We then see narration from Circe saying, raising a child is how you fall in love, but letting them go is how you prove your love. As we then flash forward again back to the present. We then see Wonder Woman land on the ground telling Pegasus to guard the perimeter. She walks up to the soldier and asks, are you in charge here, soldier? And this dude's completely baffled and unable to respond, so she just says, that's a no. where's your superior? She says, you should evacuate all civilians within a mile. He starts to contradict, but she interrupts saying, they are not dead, they are only stunned. And they're not what's coming, they are the harbingers for what is to come. Wonder Woman then hears a sound and looks behind her saying, we're out of time, evacuate your civilians and bring your army, run. At this point, we see the huge upside-down pyramid birth a massive monster. Absolute Wonder Woman walks up to it saying, you are not welcome, Harbinger Prime. This world will defend itself. I stand before you with the mystical Athena blade, forged by Hephaestus himself. It is more than capable of sending you back to your maker. Go back to wherever you came from and tell whoever you herald that you were mistaken. This world is protected. A clearly defiant Harbinger Prime then says, but it's not, as it opens its mouth, releasing a shockwave. Wonder Woman deflects the blast as Pegasus comes to her aid, blasting fire at the Harbinger's head while Wonder Woman tries to use her magic on the beast. But the Harbinger retaliates, blasting her with laser eyes. Harbinger Prime then tells his minions to rise, sow chaos, and prepare the way. We then see all the Harbingers she took down rise once more as he says, you stand, we are not amused. We warned you. She dodges and blocks his laser eyes with her bracelets, but ultimately the beast blasts her, knocking her down as the comic takes us back to the past. In this flashback, we are returned to Hell where we see Wonder Woman talking to her mother saying, I must ask you about this word again. A word she saw when she was a kid. Cersei says, I thought you might. Diana responds, it's important and I'm afraid. But Cersei tells Diana, my girl fears so little, with Diana responding, but I am afraid. So Cersei responds, you're not afraid of a word, you're afraid of the change it will bring. Diana then responds to her mother by saying, how can I know a word without having ever heard it? How can it be in my chest so powerfully without knowing what it means? At this point, Cersei tells her, say the word, Diana, say it, and know it is what you are. Then as Diana looks up at her mom, grabbing her hand, she says, Amazon. We then flash forward to the present yet again where Diana is battling Harbinger Prime, and we see her remembering when her mother told her what the word Amazon means. Remember, Cersei can't say the word, so she simply told Diana, it is who you are. You are an Amazon, but Diana has no idea what that word means, so she asks her, what was that? Cersei then explains, when Apollo first brought you to me, he banned me from ever again saying that word. Diana then asks the obvious, why would they do that? With her mother responding, why indeed, my darling girl? Essentially, as the conversation goes on, Diana just wonders why they don't want her to know she's an Amazon. Clearly, she's a threat to them in some way, something that will be revealed later on, but not in this issue. Anyway, Wonder Woman then gets back up on her feet saying, Amazon. As Harbinger Prime says, away, warrior, you are beaten. Leave us. We must prepare the way. The world is ours now. But Wonder Woman responds, no. The Beast continues to say, we will continue to hurt you if you insist. To which Diana says, I insist. We then see further narration from Cersei saying, how you prove your love is by setting your child free and arming her to the teeth with the greatest weapons imaginable, and watching her become everything she was meant to become, watching her change the world. And as we're reading this, Wonder Woman flies into the air holding a demonic-looking lasso, and Diana says to the Beast, for I am Diana of Themyscira, last of the Amazons, daughter of Circe, princess of Hell, witch of the Wild Isle, and you will not have this world while I still draw breath. And with that, Absolute Wonder Woman issue 1 comes to a close.
Hold up, before we move on, the holidays are upon us, which means you need the proper music playlist to get the festivities going. But what's a good playlist without the right earbuds? Well, let me introduce you to Raycon's Essential Open Earbuds. Yes, Raycon is today's sponsor, but I've been using their earbuds for years and love them. I think I'm actually on my 3rd pair. But these open-ear earbuds let you stay connected to your surroundings while enjoying your favorite music, podcasts, or phone calls. And this Black Friday and Cyber Monday, you can save up to 30% on all Raycon audio products. Raycon's Essential Open Earbuds keep your ears open while still delivering crystal clear sound. They just sit outside your ear canal so you can stay tuned in to traffic, coworkers, whatever's happening around you, without experiencing a drop-off in the quality of the music or the podcast you're listening to. They're also super lightweight and all-day comfortable, and the secure fit means they stay put no matter what I'm doing. Not to mention the 8-hour earbuds battery life plus the 36-hour case life keeps the party going as long as I need them to. But here's the kicker. Raycon delivers the same premium audio quality as the big brands, but at half the price. And when you add over 3 million happy customers and a 30-day happiness guarantee, there's zero reason to overpay. And like I said, with their early Black Friday sale going on right now, Raycon audio products are up to 30% off site-wide. And these These early deals will not last, so shop now before they're gone. Just click the link in the description below or go to buyraycon.com/variant comics open to get 30% off during Raycon's Black Friday and Cyber Monday sale. That's buyraycon.com/variant comics open. You'll be glad you did.
Issue 2 starts off in Gateway City, where issue 1 left off. As a reporter says, Alan Fox is reporting for The Gate. Captions say, if you're just tuning in, sit down first, as these are historic and frankly terrifying images. At present, the strange superpowered woman is fighting massive creatures, the likes of which we've only seen in science fiction, on our beach. The shores of Gateway City will never be the same. Maybe nowhere will be the same. And while he's saying this, we see Diana fight this monster, whipping it with her lasso, saying, that is but a taste, Harbinger Prime. Retreat now and save yourself, as we see the lasso burns the creature's skin on contact. But obviously Harbinger Prime does not retreat, telling his mini Harbingers to destroy her. She then makes a magical star-shaped shield, blocking their attacks by uttering a magical word. She then spins her lasso around, saying, this is your final warning. Desist and retreat or face your doom. He tells her retreat is doom, you fool. So she says, so be it. Hear me, Harbinger Prime, for I bring you Nemesis, a weapon forged in the fires of hell, fashioned by my mother, the sorceress Circe, made from the remains of the last basilisk, infused with the blood of Prometheus, blessed by the Demeter goddess of the harvest, mother of all of us. And for you, Harbinger Prime, Nemesis will be a particular hell, for she binds and burns in proportion to your sins, and your soul shines bright with the blood of the innocent. He then screams in pain, saying, release me. She tells him, the burn you feel, Harbinger, know that it is the result of the pain you have wrought on others. All you are feeling, you have earned. Accept Nemesis's judgment of you. He then says again, release me, Amazon, release me. With her responding, you shall have your freedom on one condition only, Harbinger Prime. You will leave this place and not return. And you will pass this message to whatever monster summon you to do his bidding. This world is now protected by Diana of the Wild Isle, Princess of Hell, the last Amazon, and all the resources at her command. Tremble and hide for another millennium or two if you are wise. He then says we accept, so she removes the lasso or Nemesis and lets him and his army retreat. So that's kind of crazy. Her lasso is called Nemesis, and it basically acts like Ghost Rider's penance stare in the sense that it binds and burns in proportion to your sins. So it's not exactly the penance stare, but very similar, as the penance stare makes people feel the pain of all their victims, and Nemesis binds and burns based on all the bad you've done. So definitely similar. Anyway, after this, a soldier comes to meet Diana on the ocean shore and says, Diana? She turns around and responds, Steve? As she realizes it's Steve Trevor, and they already know each other. After Diana meets Steve in the present, the comic then takes us to the past to show us how they met. We see that some time ago, Steve somehow washed up on the shores of hell, aka the Wild Isle, where Diana and Circe live. When Diana finds him, she runs over saying, hello, can you hear me? But she can't understand him because she speaks Greek and he speaks English. So she uses magic to be able to understand him, with her saying, try again. I can understand you now. Who are you? Where did you come from? Before he could say anything, a tentacle from the water grabs him and drags him in, but she dives in and saves him. Diana then takes him back to her and her mother's home. She tells her mom, I found him by the shore. We're wet because the Hydra tried to take him. Circe says, by Hera, Diana, you can't just fight the Hydra so casually. She tells her, I didn't so much fight it as just take him back. Diana then puts a blanket over Steve and lets him rest. When he wakes up, he tells Diana, I thought on the beach you spoke Greek. She says, I did. He asks, but we're not in Greece. She responds, I wish. So he looks around and asks, where are we? She tells him, well, this is going to be hard. You're in the underworld. He's like, underworld. Wait, hell? With her saying, essentially, yes. He then freaks out, screaming, I'm dead. She tells him, not exactly, but you're still quite weak. So try to take it easy. You've been through a lot. And since this is a lot for Steve to process, she gives him a minute. While she gives him said minute, she sits with her mom and asks, why do you think he's here, mother? She says, I don't know. Diana asks, do you think it's a test or a trap or a gift? At this point, Steve gets up and comes over to both of them saying, ma'am, I apologize for my behavior. Not my best day, but thank you for taking me into your home. I'm indebted to you and your daughter for your assistance and care. My name is Steve Trevor, United States Air Force. Circe says, pleasure to meet you, Steve. I am Circe. This is my daughter, Diana. Welcome to hell. Fortunately for you, you landed on the Wild Isle, which thanks to Diana and myself is the safest place to be if you have to be in hell. Steve asks Diana, would you be willing to show me where you found me? I'd like to investigate the area. She says, yeah, and takes him where she found him. He tells her, you're very tall. She says, we're similar height. He says, yes, well, I'm also very tall. And in my world, there are almost no women as tall as you. She says, does this matter? With him being like, no, it actually doesn't matter at all. So Diana says, then let's talk about something else. Tell
me of your world other than how tall people are. He basically says, I'm sorry, it's hard to think about right now, but I'll never see it again. I mean, I don't want to brag, Diana, but I didn't think hell was where I was headed. She asks, does anyone? He replies, oof, you're tough. Give a guy a minute to adjust. I guess I just thought I was a good man. She finally says, here's what I think. Not everyone here belongs here. It's just sometimes where we've ended up. With him saying, thank you for saving me, twice, as she says, you're welcome. And with that, we're taken back to the present where he's reacquainted with Diana saying, I hoped I would see you, but I never dreamt it would be today. She says, saving the day as she compliments his costume. But it's not a costume, it's his Air Force uniform. He then lets her know that she's about to meet a whole bunch of uniforms as he's been asked to bring her to Commander Cole. So she goes with him, but these people aren't necessarily grateful for her interference and saving them. She tells him, I'm not entirely naive of the world of men. I had a teacher with a sharp tongue in these things, as you well know. And when she's brought to Commander Cole, he of course yells at her saying, you endangered a massive number of lives with this insanity and without any military coordination, let alone approval. For all we know, you're in league with the damn thing. Incredibly convenient you showed up the exact moment it did and are the only one that could stop it. Explain that to me if you don't mind too terribly much. She then looks down at him as she's way taller than the commander saying, I understand your position, Commander. I am an outsider and an element you cannot control and that frustrates you. But this is not my problem. My problem is that monsters are coming and I am only one woman. But I will coordinate with you to the best of my abilities so that we may save more lives together. This world is not prepared for what is coming for it and you will need my help. But please understand that any effort to fashion me into yet another arm of your military-industrial complex will simply not be tolerated. He then says, you dare to, with her saying yes. She then goes over to their map saying, how is the evacuation proceeding? An officer tells her, slow, but we're going to stop the orders. You killed it, right? Or sent it home or something? She says, I did, but that was just a harbinger, meaning that was just a messenger and something else is coming. Commander Cole asks, something bigger? She says, of course, with Diana telling them, it's coming in about an hour. Commander Cole then freaks out saying, the hour? She's like, yeah, if we're lucky. Trevor tries to calm him down, but Commander Cole says, you're out of line, Trevor. Rest of the world may think you're some kind of superhero meets Jesus, but I know you're just a man. You could be court-martialed too. This obviously intimidates the commander, so he just says yes. With her telling him, here's the problem, Commander. I think we both know you need me quite badly given what just happened, but I don't need you at all. So perhaps rethink how you would like to approach this conversation and let us try again when you've calmed down. Hopefully that will be before any more innocent people have lost their lives. I'll be outside feeding my horse. One of the soldiers then asks her, what the hell does a dead horse eat? She tells him, magic. Trevor of course follows her out and says, can you understand your horse? She says, I can communicate with all animals, Steve. He then asks, can I pet him? She tells him, you may. He finds your manner soothing. While petting the horse, he asks, what's his name? And she says, Pegasus. He then tells her, I know he's a Pegasus, but what's his name? She says, Pegasus. Steve, my winged horse is the great mythological winged horse Pegasus, born of Medusa's blood, slain by Zeus. He's all like, is that why he's bones? She tells him he's far more than just bones. But yes, he's bones because he was slain, and he's alive because of magic and sacrifice, just like you. Steve tells her, I'm sorry about what happened in there, with her being like, it's disappointing, but I expected it. Steve asks her, what will you do if they won't let you help? She says, I'd like to see them try. They will come around, Steve. I'm sorry to say there are many things coming that will force them to. They need my help, and there will be others too. He asks, others? She says, heroes, as Pegasus starts freaking out because he hears the next monster. Soon after, everyone else could hear it, and it's hurting their ears. Steve asks, what's that sound? She says, it will pass. It's what comes next we have to fear. Mother, protect me in dangerous waters. Goddesses, guide my hand, righteous and true. Sisters, if I do not find you in this world, I will find you in the next. For now I have seen the face of the Tetracide, and none who see it shall survive. As we see a massive Cloverfield-sized monster come out of the ocean, Steve asks, oh my God, Diana, what is it? She tells him, death personified. She then says, Commander, evacuate the city now. I'll buy you some time. He says, city? You said a mile. She then tells him, I was wrong. Goddesses, protect us all. The Tetracide leaves nothing behind as she walks towards it to battle it to the death.
But that wraps up issue 2, so now it's on to issue 3.
The issue starts where we last left off as Wonder Woman starts to face the Tetracide. Captions say, Gateway City Natural History Museum. Now, as we see people watching her face this creature via a news broadcast. One of the men watching asks, where's Barbara? I can't believe she hasn't seen this, but she is indeed seeing it as she says, I'm right here. As she watches saying, Wonder Woman, before running out of the museum. Now this is crazy because this is the first time someone has referred to Diana as Wonder Woman in this series. We all know that she will become Wonder Woman, but this is the first mention of her iconic name so far. Anyway, the book then takes us to the Gateway City Boardwalk as Wonder Woman meets with the US military. One of the soldiers asks, asks, "What did you do?" She says, "Just some magic to slow it down. Buy us time." The Tetracide is very resistant to magic. My mother would have been more effective, but alas, we only have me. Before you leave, and you should all leave immediately, it's important I tell you how the Tetracide kills, so you may have any hope of fighting it after it has killed me. One of the soldiers asks, "Killed you?" She ignores him and says, "I don't know how much more serious I could be about this situation. Please listen. Tetracide, it means quite literally the 4 killer. It kills in 4 ways: death of fear, death of mind, death of body, death of soul." One of the soldiers says, "Death of fear doesn't sound so bad." She answers, "And that is where you would be wrong, soldier. That is our greatest danger, given it has emerged in a heavily populated area." She then gives them the history of the Tetracide, saying because of what the Tetracide means by death of fear is that you no longer are capable of feeling fear when you see it, and you are drawn to it. Very soon the Tetracide will begin to emanate a sound. It will be loud and sharp. It will travel for miles, and when people hear that sound, they will be drawn to it, like bees to honey. They will do anything to be with the sound. They will walk right into the Tetracide's jaws, where one dies in agony. A death of mind, body, and soul. And the death of soul, I don't want to be too dramatic, but the people who are crushed to death in the race to the Tetracide's maw will be the lucky ones. The soldiers then say, "Lord," as she finally says yes. And for anyone who manages to survive the sound, touching the Tetracide will begin to destroy your mind, making you incapable of resisting. Death of body quickly follows as it ingests you. And death of soul is, well, that explains itself, does it not? So please, for the love of Hera, leave this place. Run if you can. As Wonder Woman leaves to battle, Steve Trevor stops her saying, "Wait." She says, "Steve, please, do everything you can to get these people out of here. I cannot help them once the sound begins, and it will begin very soon." She then meets Pegasus on the beach and tells him, "Keep your distance. Attack with Hellfire if you can, but stay out of reach. If it lays one tentacle on you, that's it. And I'm quite sure Zeus will make certain you are not resurrected again, my friend." Her and Pegasus then fly into battle to fight the beast as Diana says, "Tetracide, I wish you no ill will. I only seek to protect these people, this city, this world. I will give you the offer I gave the Prime Harbinger. Leave now and never return, or die hard and painful by my hand." The beast just screams in her face, so she says, "So be it." She then wraps her nemesis lasso around the blade of Athena, throwing it at the beast and stabbing it, then flies around the monster over and over, entangling it. And as we know from the last issue, the nemesis lasso binds and burns in proportion to the pain you've brought onto others, meaning it's probably going to bind and burn a lot to this beast. But the beast is so powerful it's able to slip one of its tentacles free and pull the Athena blade out. Diana then says some magic words and pulls a magical battle axe out of her pouch, slicing several of its tentacles off, but one is able to grab her arm as she says no. The comic then takes us to the past when Steve Trevor was still in hell with Diana as she's fighting off the Hydra beast who really wants to kill Steve. Diana then starts talking to the Hydra saying, "Relent, and we can live in peace once again. You will never have him. I'm sorry for your loss. Choose peace and live by Diana's good word." Obviously, she defeats the Hydra, and later Steve asks, "Could it really understand you?" She tells him, "Unclear. Most creatures can, but not all. But it certainly understands strength, but I'm sorry it pushed me to such lengths. I shouldn't have let it get that far." Diana says, "I think it's quite taken with you." Steve tells her, "Well, I'm sorry to be so provincial, but the feeling is not mutual." Steve then tells her he misses his home, Gateway City, and she asks him to tell her about it. He says, "Gateway City is on the coast, and the way the light hits the Pacific at sunset, it always reminded me of my mother's laugh for some reason. And something about how it dances across the tips of the water, consistent and yet surprising. I miss how it reminded me of her every time I saw it." Later on, back at Diana's home, she tells Steve, "Would you mind grabbing some firewood from the pile by the door?" He says, "No problem." And when he leaves, Diana tells her mother, "I found it, mother. The way to send Steve home. This spell." Her mom looks at it and says, "No, Diana. No, that's not the way." Diana says it is. Her mother says, "If you read this spell closely, you understand this is not a small sacrifice. This is..." Diana interrupts saying, "I read it." Her mom says, "Then you didn't understand it." Diana tells her, "I understand it perfectly," as Steve walks back in with the pile of firewood. It's clear that whatever this spell is, it requires a big sacrifice, and Diana is willing to do it as she's developing feelings for Steve. Later on, we see Diana's mom wake up in the middle of the night to see Diana doing something. She asks, "What are you doing up at this hour?" Diana responds, "I couldn't stop thinking about it." Her mom gets up and says, "About what, darling?" Diana tells her, "About what I am to be. If I'm to be a great warrior and will someday even be a greater one, a savior of humanity, as you say, then I cannot fail my first mission for humanity." Her mom asks mission. Diana responds, "To return them one of their greatest heroes. One good man is all it takes to save the world. He wasn't a gift, mother. He was a test." Her mom responds, "We don't know that, Diana." Diana says, "If we are right that I am a great warrior, then the dominant arm of a great warrior is a worthy sacrifice." As we see Diana chopped off her right arm as a sacrifice for the spell to send Steve back home. Her mother then breaks down in tears saying, "Diana, what have you done? As she stares at her daughter's severed arm before the fireplace. Diana says, what was necessary? Let's pause for a second because this is crazy. Diana chopped off her arm as a sacrifice to make the spell work to send Steve Trevor back all that time ago. Yet somehow she has her right arm attached yet again. We'll see how later, but this is crazy nonetheless, and I love it. Soon after this, we see Diana and her mother cast a magical spell and are indeed able to send Steve Trevor back to Gateway City, as captions from her mother say, I had known for a very long time that she was exceptional. But even still, I had underestimated her capacity for love, her capacity for pain, her capacity for sacrifice, her capacity for honor. This child would change the world. I had foreseen it in my scrying pool, but now I was seeing it live in front of me, living and breathing. It was more powerful than I ever could have imagined. It was more powerful than I ever could have imagined. I love this piece of dialogue. It embodies what Wonder Woman is in its entirety. She is love, she's a badass, she's willing to make a sacrifice, even if it's pieces of herself. She has immense honor, and she's willing to do what needs to be done no matter what. Her sense of honor is like no other. That was one of my favorite aspects of the first Wonder Woman film. She just didn't understand how you couldn't help people in need no matter the cost. Anyway, like I said, the spell works and Steve is teleported back to Gateway City with Diana's mother saying, I'm sorry you didn't get to say goodbye. She just responds, I will see him again, which as we know, she did indeed. Now, back in the present, we see that one of the Tetraside's tentacles still has a hold on Diana's right arm and she can't break free. So she says a magical word that makes her arm disappear. And now free, she flies off to safety. When she returns back to the soldiers, they're like, are you okay? Your arm. It took your arm. She says, I lost my arm long ago. In its place is a magic arm my mother and I made. I can get it back, but it will take complicated magic. So that answers our question. That's how Diana got her arm back and how we didn't know she was missing an arm for the first 2 issues. Because after she cut it off to be able to send Steve home, her and her mother made another arm out of magic, which she could do again, but it's complicated. So in the meantime, she pulls out a robotic arm out of her pouch and clamps it on. I don't know why, but for whatever reason, I think this is badass. I love the fact that this Wonder Woman only has one arm and willingly sacrificed it, and now has a magical or robotic arm in its place. Steve walks up to Diana and says, this is how you got me out? You gave them a hero's arm? She tells him, I believe I called it a warrior's arm. He then says, I think I got closer. As she puts her robotic hand on his cheek, she says, it was more than worth it. Anyway, she then tells all the soldiers and military, the rest of you, the sound is already beginning. I could feel the rumbling on the beach. You must move now, or the next time I see you, you'll be climbing over each other so that you might be devoured. For the love of Hecate, move faster. Steve tells her, I don't want to leave you here alone, Diana. She says, I know. It's why you were worthy of saving in the first place, but it will be all for naught if you die on that beach. Please listen to me and go. Right outside of this building, we then see Barbara from the first page of the issue run into Diana on accident. Diana catches her saying, I have you. Diana tells her, Miss, you shouldn't be here. In fact, it's too late for you to run. Please go inside the Sea Monster themed bar and speak with Steve Trevor. Tell him Diana asked him to get you to safety. As Diana continues walking away to battle the beast, Barbara says, Wonder Woman. Diana looks back and says, Wonder Woman? Barbara tells her, the Amazons. It's what they would call their champion, the absolute best of them. You are one, right? An Amazon? Diana walks over to her again and asks, you know of the Amazons? Barbara answers, I wrote my dissertation on the myths of the Amazons. It's my primary field of study. Diana asks, myth? Barbara answers, well, not to me, or I'm guessing you. Diana then says, I must go. We'll speak on this more. Barbara says, my name is Barbara Minerva. Diana then says, I am Diana. And with that, Wonder Woman flies off to battle the beast, who's starting to sound off its siren. Barbara shouts, I'm in the book. Diana says, I don't know what that means, but I will find out. Now, what's really cool here is, as DC Wonder Woman fans know, Barbara Minerva becomes Cheetah. So this is setting up one of Wonder Woman's arch enemies. So that's a little fun plant or Easter egg for the future. Now, Diana arrives on the beach staring up at the massive creature that looks straight out of a Godzilla film. She's wondering how the hell she's gonna beat this thing, and then pulls out a potion from her pouch and says, yes, that could work, but I would need to strengthen it. Not strengthen, widen, 1,000-fold. Yes, I think that could do it. We then go to a live news broadcast and she starts drawing something on the ground saying, this is not for recording, gentlemen. The anchor asks, can I ask why? She replies, of course. It is mostly because I don't want people to be afraid, and new things are often scary. A frightened populace will serve no one now. The other reason is because magic is sacred and not everyone has earned the responsibility to wield it. As she continues to draw with magic on the floor, reciting a spell, the cameraman says, that was a pretty good answer. The anchor agrees, it really was. After she's done, the cameraman then allows her to speak directly into the camera, addressing the city. She says, "Hello, Gateway City. My name is Diana, and I'm afraid I need your help to save your city. There's a terrible monster on your beach called the Tetracide, and I have been trying to fight it, but it is very powerful. It is beyond me. This monster will begin to emit a sound that will compel you to sacrifice yourselves to it. This will be difficult to hear, to understand, but to save you from this fate, I'm going to briefly make all of you deaf. The entire city. Many of you do not believe me, but I assure you, you're about to become believers. The panic and the chaos that brings will now be almost as deadly as the Tetracide itself. And so, I need you to be calm. I need you, especially those of you that are hearing this message now, to help your friends and neighbors. Kindness and compassion are all that will save us now. I came here to save your city, but today it seems like it will be up to each of you to save your city instead. I know you could do it. Wonder Woman believes in you." And on the last page, as she addresses the city, she casts the spell to make everyone in the city go temporarily deaf to save them from the monster. And just like that, we have issue 3 of Absolute Wonder Woman, which was phenomenal. But we are not done. We got one more issue to cover, so let's get into issue 4. Issue 4 picks up in Gateway City now as two women are talking to each other by writing on paper, since everyone is deaf due to the spell Wonder Woman just cast to keep them safe from the beast. One of the women writes, "I'm going out to help. Stay here." And on the next page, before this woman can leave the shop and go help, they're greeted by Diana and Steve, with Steve saying, "Hey Etta, can we come in?" Etta says, "Steve, you're here with Wonder Woman?" Diana says, "Hello." Gia then covers her ears saying, "Oh God, I can hear you. Am I going to hear the death sound?" Diana tells her, "No, you're okay. I've done a protective spell just around this building so that we may communicate safely." Steve then says, "Sorry to barge in, ladies. Diana, this is Etta Candy and her sister Gia Candy. Ladies, this is the woman who saved me in hell, Diana of the Wild Isle." Now, diehard DC and Wonder Woman fans know this is pretty huge because Etta in Wonder Woman lore is Wonder Woman's best friend, and she's finally being established in this continuity. Anyway, Etta tells Steve, "This is a lot to process, but I'm guessing there's no time for that. Why are you here?" Steve tells her, "Diana asked me if I knew any witches. I said I did." Gia's all like, "Wait, me?" Diana then goes over to her saying, "Fear not, Gia. I come seeking only some ingredients. No more. I had to use the last of some things for the spell to deafen the city. You see, to fight this creature, I really do need my arm back. The prosthetic is a powerful weapon forged in fire by Hephaestus himself, but it is no match for what it replaces, and what I face is perhaps beyond me, even at my best and strongest." Gia nervously says, "Arms are good to have." As Etta and Steve look on, Etta tells Steve, "Remember all the times I teased you about Diana and how she couldn't possibly be all the things you were describing?" Steve says, "Vividly." Etta tells him, "Yeah, you undersold." From here, Wonder Woman starts asking Gia for a bunch of different ingredients that she needs to cast a spell to return her arm, like black walnut, yucca root, witch's burr, and more. Once she gives Diana all the ingredients, including some very important and rare ingredients which Gia has hidden, Diana tells her, "Thank you. You are quite the witch. Now, do you have anywhere that isn't this lovely shop? Because there will be quite a lot of blood." They then put Wonder Woman in the closet where she starts casting her spell, as we learn that Steve, Etta, and Gia also had to give blood to Wonder Woman for the spell to work. As we see the spell start working on Wonder Woman, we are then taken back to the past in the Wild Isle of Hell, where Wonder Woman's mother, Circe, falls on the floor asking, "You did this to me?" A voice says, "That is not exactly how I would put it, but yes, my most devoted disciple, my most beloved of all I have loved." Circe says, "If I was beloved, you would never have allowed me to be imprisoned in hell. You would never have allowed me to be brought so low. You would have never forced a child on me that was not my own." The voice says, "There's a great and powerful game afoot, Circe, each of us with our own roles to play, each of us with our own sacrifices to make." The voice continued to tell Circe how she's been chosen for this unique task, and she's the only one who can get the job done. On the next page, we see the voice talking to Circe is Hecate. Circe's captions then say, "From that night on, visions came, not regularly, but from time to time. Flashes of what Diana would be to the world, of how she would suffer and also persevere. How the goddess's great plan would knit together so carefully that nobody could see her until it was too late, and also of how lonely I would be, trapped here without her." Circe's captions continue to say, "It was this night I began plans to make her first lasso, built with love and pain, magic and fire." The comic then brings us back to Gateway City in the present, where the spell Wonder Woman cast has restored her arm. As she says, "Thank you, my friends. My strength is fully returned. I owe you a debt and it will not be forgotten." Diana then has a nice back and forth with Etta about the job she used to have protecting people, telling her, "I used to be a detective in Gateway City." Diana asks, "And now?" Etta responds, "Now I'm something called a private investigator." Diana tells her, "So similar work, but now you work for yourself? Yes?" Etta laughs and says, "You have quite a way with words, you know. Somehow you make everything seem better than it is." hopeful. And that's exactly how Wonder Woman should be. They are writing her perfectly in this series. Anyway, Diana says, I can live with that. The bubble spell protecting your shop will dissipate soon, probably before the deafness spell abates. But the tetracide sound will end shortly, and the spell not long after that. I hope to see you all again. As Wonder Woman walks outside, she says, bye Hecate, no, as she sees the beast has started to destroy some of Gateway City. So she flies there, as captions of her say, I must lure it back to the beach before it embeds. The tentacles have returned to their natural position, which means it has stopped emitting the Death of Fear sound. And I could feel my spell fading as well, but because the population has not come to the monster, it is seeking them out, and that I cannot have, as she casts a spell conjuring up the Athena blade. Once she has it, she says, hello my friend, I've had a very big idea for you. You're going to love it, but first, we must bring the tetracide back to the beach away from the civilians. As she tells one of her potions, be what it most craves, as it starts emitting the screams the monster craves. With Wonder Woman's caption saying, all magic has a price. It is known. The price can have many facets, like using a tool that is the exact sound of what will happen if you fail. Your own nightmare come alive. We then see Wonder Woman cast a spell on her blade, as her captions say, it was a good idea the first time, but I just hadn't thought big enough. Half the battle is choosing the right weapon, and so all is not yet lost. As we see, the spell she cast was to turn her Athena blade into the size of a skyscraper, as she uses her super strength to fly it into the air and then swing it at the tetracide. When she swings it, she yells, Pegasus, now, Goddess Athena, aid your humble servant in striking true. Let the Athena blade break upon it as waves cutting through stone. Mother, though I am far from home, lend me your strength, your conviction, your indomitable will, as we see her use the gigantic blade to cut the monster in half, revealing its guts. With the monster now dead, Diana says, thank you, Mother, as we see the president watching in the Oval Office asking, where is Commander Cole? A man responds, he is still evacuating citizens on the ground, sir. We haven't heard from him since the city went deaf. The president says, Kale, you're the damn national security advisor. Advise already. She says, Mr. President, I say even if she killed that thing, we still have a very big problem on our hands. And with that, the issue ends.
Now this puts us past the halfway point, so let's jump into issue 5.
The book starts off with narration from Wonder Woman that says, well, it wasn't expecting that. A dead center hit might have killed it, but we make the best of what we have, as she calls back her Athena blade to her hand. She continues to say, I doubt the injury will be enough to get it to retreat. But as she's saying that, military jets start firing missiles at it, and she then says, Hera, no, as she uses magic spells to stop 2 missiles. She then says, only 2 missiles were diverted. The third is still headed for the city, with no way for me to reach it in time. Oh my goddess. But on the next page, we see that Pegasus is able to stop the missile from hitting a building. Wonder Woman then says, thank you, Hecate. Thank you, Pegasus. Can't be having any more of that. At which point she flies over to one of the fighter jets saying hi to one of the pilots. He's like, hi? She then says, I need you to not do that again, all right? He replies, yes, ma'am. She then flies off and goes back to the tetracide, saying, it already begins to knit itself together. All I do is buy time, it seems. And when you're out of time, you consider desperate ideas. Meaning she clearly has something in store to take out this monster once and for all, but does not want to do it. The comic then takes us back to the past in the Wild Isle, aka Hell. Here we see Wonder Woman talking to her mother Cersei, who says to her, it's a last resort, Diana, but you will need that more than once where you're headed. As she hands her a green lasso, Diana says, would it trouble us to talk about some of my future in a positive light, Mother? Cersei responds, I'm very sorry if I've given you the impression your future is negative, because it's not. It's glorious, filled with beauty and horror, danger and opportunity, which is why you will need this. I have named it Sacrifice. She will hold anything, Diana, and she will transform anything. But what she holds determines the shape of that transformation. Diana takes it and says, I understand, as we see her go off to fight a harpy with it. When Diana returns, her mother asks, and? Diana replies, it worked very well. You are much more skilled in transmogrification. I am far less fluent. Cersei says, speak plainly, Diana. So she tells her, I found it a bit cruel. Her mother replies, Diana, not everything you meet will decide to be your best friend. Many will try to kill you even before shoving away your hand of friendship. Sacrifice is made for exactly that. And it looks like the harpy nearly killed you even with sacrifice in hand. Perhaps you should take a moment to be grateful for her instead of cursing her compromises. Diana then sits by herself next to a fire saying, that went well. She either cannot see the cruelty in it or she does not care. At this point, Hecate appears before Diana saying, you're right. Diana replies, about which? Hecate answers, perhaps both. Diana tells her the second scares me more than the first. Hecate tells her perhaps she does not care simply because she knows how to weigh things appropriately. I'm not going to hold your hand and dance around it, princess. if your mother, who knows the future, made you a cruel weapon, I suspect she knows you're going to need it. Diana tells her she does not know the future. She can sometimes see parts of the future. That's not the same thing. Hecate asks, you think she leads you astray? Diana looks at her saying no. So Hecate asks, then what ails you, princess? Diana tells her, I trust her implicitly. She frequently tells me I should not because she is false, but because I am too trusting. Despite that, I have never doubted her. This weapon, perhaps we do not see things the same way. Hecate says, foolish girl, with Diana saying, I apologize, goddess. I spoke too freely. Hecate tells her, that lasso is your mother, girl. She made it with love and pain, fire and blood. It is a lasso of transmogrification, because transformation is what she knows best, and for you, she demands only the best. And it was you that made her believe in transformation. Even more than me, it was you. After this, Diana goes to her mother saying, forgive me. Cersei replies, there's nothing to forgive. Diana says, but there is. You are so powerful, the greatest sorceress to ever live. You have taught me all I know. You loom like any mother over a child, a god. You cast such a shadow, it is easy for me to forget that you have not been freely given all that I have been given. You are self-made, like a great stone carved through horror and pain. Her mother then picks her head up saying, and later by love. Diana tells her, sacrifice is not the weapon I would have made for myself, but I see now it is a good thing, as myself is limited, my vision narrow. I will always benefit from other eyes. I was wrong to doubt you, but you must teach me how to master it, please. As the two hold the lasso, embracing each other's hands. And from here, things really start to get a bit wild. On the next page, we're taken back to Gateway City in the present, where we see Wonder Woman hovering over the beast, holding the green lasso her mother made her all that time ago. As captions from her say, Mother, you are always right. Did you see this moment in your scrying pool? Did you know the answer would be so treacherous? This will take great focus. And the way back, well, that is not certain. And the form, it must be just right. The tetracide has no natural enemies. It leans towards sound as both weapon and defense. But it has, as Pegasus flies by, she realizes something, saying, oh, Pegasus, of course. It was in front of me the whole time. She then wraps the lasso around her arm, saying, I am become her. She was both terrible and tragic, cursing and cursed, forever entwined in injustice, a living hell. This mantle must I accept today, for a far greater good. In hope and faith that I will once again someday be Diana of the Wild Isle. Diana, last of the Amazons. Diana, daughter of Cersei. Mother, please do not forget me. As the lasso starts transforming her into some sort of monster, as she says, for now, I am become doom. I am Medusa. That's right, this magical lasso turned Diana into Medusa. Diana, now Medusa, says, and none that see my face shall live, as Medusa's whole thing is she turns anyone to stone who looks her in the eyes. We are then taken back to Steve, Etta, her sister, and Barbara, who are watching all of this via a live news feed. Steve asks, what happened to her? Barbara answers, she's Medusa. Somehow, she's made herself Medusa. Etta asks, what's a Medusa? Barbara tells her she was a priestess of the goddess Athena. She was raped by Poseidon in one of Athena's temples. For this sin, the goddess Athena cursed her with that form you see now. The gods are cruel, but also, maybe that's not how it happened. Records are dicey in these matters, and stories often contradict. But Medusa's actual curse wasn't the transformation. Not really. The curse is that all who look Medusa in the eye are turned to stone. So as the beast looks at Medusa, that's exactly what happens. Barbara, watching all this live, says, it's dead. Why is she still Medusa? Etta says, maybe it's not that simple. If you become something else, how do you remember what you were? Steve then rips off the sleeve of his button-down to create a blindfold while saying, your friends remind you. Etta says, Steve, you are absolutely not going out there. He tells her, she cut off her own arm to get me out of hell. There's no scenario where I leave her out there alone. As he puts the blindfold on his head and leaves to make Diana remember who she is. Once outside, he calls Diana and she comes to him as he says, Diana, I know you can hear me, and I know you understand that this is not who you are. You are a great hero and warrior who saved me from the underworld. You cut off your arm, an incredible sacrifice to free me, to send me home. You must remember, you are Diana, witch of the Wild Isle. Diana, the last of the Amazons. Wonder Woman, hero of Gateway City. And with that, Diana turns back into her normal self as her and Steve embrace each other, with Diana saying, one good man can save the world, Steve. Thank you. Steve asks, is it really over? She says, almost. Unlike everything else, however, I think this part will be most satisfying. As she flies to the tetracide, punching it, causing it to shatter. She then says, thank you, Hera, protector of women, for your aid. Hecate, for your great wisdom and light in my darkest hour. Artemis, for the skill and thirst of the hunt. Hestia, the fire of truth and faith. Aphrodite, for allowing me to see with love. Demeter, circle of life and mother to us all. And Athena, today your ancient cruelty to Medusa saved us all. And perhaps there is a lesson for me in even that. At this point, Diana's friends come over to her asking, is it really over? She replies, yes, that should do it. Barbara asks, did you know that would work? She replies while petting Pegasus, I didn't know for certain. Medusa is a horror story, a cruel fate dealt by the hand of a goddess I love, Athena, who has only ever blessed me. When my feelings about the injustice of Medusa's plight burn bright, I try to remember that all of us, even the gods, are vulnerable to our hearts becoming twisted with hate. Hate and fear drive us only to the worst versions of ourselves. We need to be better than that, all of us. Thank you for helping me find myself. I am in your debt again. Steve asks, are you leaving? She says, oh, there's much to be done. I'm not going, but before she could finish her sentence, on the final panel of the issue, we see the ground open beneath her as a massive hand of blue flames reaches out of a crater and grabs Diana, dragging her into the earth with Steve and the others looking on in shock.
And with that, we jump into issue 6, which opens up with Wonder Woman having been brought to the throne room of Hades in the underworld. Hades says to her, kneel, princess, and let's see that pretty face. She takes off her helmet and he says, lovely. Princess, you cannot leave the underworld. She says, except I did. He replies, yes, you did. And we'll be getting to how you did that in short order. But first, why did you not remove her weapons? One of his people replies, she had none, sire. He says, nearly everything she's wearing is a weapon, you fool. Disarm yourself, princess. She says, I'm surprised, Hades, you are a god, and yet you fear my weapons? She then begins to take off her tiara and all of her armor. He replies, curiosity rules this more than fear, I'd say. She replies, I wonder if that's what the stories will say. Hades then tells her, I see you, but hear your mother's tongue. Unfortunate. Wonder Woman then takes off her breastplate saying, may I keep my boots, sire? He replies, you may, if only to speed things up. With all of her armor taken off, she sarcastically asks, better? Hades replies, do you think I can't smell an enchanted pouch? The magic coming off that thing might as well have cartoonish stink lines. Empty it, as she pulls out her god killer sword while saying, I never imagined you as a fan of cartoons, sire. He says, that tongue, Circe has sharpened it a bit too far, princess. Wonder Woman replies, perhaps it was also sharpened by circumstance. Hades just looks at her saying, my statement stands. I'm absolutely loving this back and forth between the two of them. Hades then looks at all the weapons on the floor and says, what every growing girl needs I see. Bring me the red lasso. His servant then goes to pick it up, but Wonder Woman says, I advise against that, sir. But of course the servant does anyway, and it burns the servant, with Wonder Woman saying, none may wield the nemesis lasso but me, my liege. We would not have crafted such a dangerous weapon in such a dangerous place unless we could be certain they would not be misused by others. When you live in a place that constantly tries to kill you, weapons become second nature, sire. Hades then stands up and starts walking towards her saying, tell me what this nemesis lasso is made from. She then tells him how the nemesis lasso was made and were taken back to before on Mount Prometheus, on the border of myth and reality, where we see Wonder Woman climbing said mountain, where she ultimately arrives before Prometheus, who has been chained to the mountain by Zeus. But Wonder Woman is able to use her magic and weapons to temporarily free Prometheus and even ask her sister, the birds, to no longer eat from Prometheus and leave him alone. She even offers him a drink which allows him to drink as much water as he likes, as it will constantly replenish due to magic her mother Circe put on it. After Wonder Woman helps Prometheus, he says, I am happy to see that Circe's daughter is much like her. Wonder Woman says, thank you, Lord Prometheus. You honor me with your words, but my presence here is not unselfish. You see, I need a vial of your blood, a part of you, champion of humanity, their greatest ally and protector, to power a weapon of fire and justice. I pledge in my own name, in the name of my mother Circe, sorcerer of the Wild Isle, that I will use such a weapon with only good intentions and in the service of protecting humanity from monsters, including the gods, should it come to that. Of course, Prometheus agrees, saying, strike off a tip of my finger so you may have my flesh and my blood for your weapons. And perhaps something else too. She does with her magical axe, taking a piece of his flesh and blood. But this is not all he gives her. He also says, Diana, look, my last gift to you. Rise, great one, once born from the blood of Medusa, eventually betrayed and killed by Zeus, now reborn of my blood, and a cry of justice on the very wind. Rise up, Pegasus, and live again. Showing us how she got her dark Pegasus, if you will, her undead Pegasus. She then thanks Prometheus and flies off with Pegasus and Prometheus's blood and flesh, which she would use to, of course, make the Nemesis lasso. Back in the present, Hades says, this lasso, Nemesis you called it, it is made of much more than just Prometheus. I sense something else, something dark and venomous. She replies, yes, Basilisk. He asks, you killed the last Basilisk? She tells him, yes. He asks, as a trophy? This seems a bit savage for all your talk of justice, princess. She replies, I do not kill for trophies. The Basilisk's soul was soaked in blood of the innocent, but that is not why I killed it. Zeus, apparently angry that I was still alive, had tested it with killing me. It regularly appeared on the Wild Isle, trying to fulfill its mission. She tells us the story of the Basilisk as we're taken back to before in the cave of the last Basilisk. The short of it is, she was able to use magic and cleverness to decapitate decapitate the basilisk. Hades says, the last basilisk, and naturally, you and your mother harvest the body, the venom, all of it. She says, naturally, a witch never lets anything go to waste. A mark of both respect and conservation. Hades says, yes, I'm sure the basilisk appreciated your conservation. She says, it's less about the basilisk and more about the wider world, I find. He says, well, this has all been very educational, if not theoretical. She says, theoretical? Do you think I did not do these things? He replies, not at all, but let's see how you feel about conservation when applied more personally to you. And on the next page, we see Hades has captured her mother Circe as Wonder Woman tears up saying, mother, with Hades saying, at last, no more smart remarks from the too sharp tongue. We all have weaknesses, princess. Yours is quite easy to pinpoint. And this leads us to issue 7, the final issue of the first story arc for Absolute Wonder Woman. And at the beginning, we see Wonder Woman as a little girl in the Wild Isle, aka Hell. And she's talking to Lady Persephone. Lady Persephone is a Greek goddess of the underworld. She's the daughter of Zeus, queen of the underworld, wife to Hades. And we see she's taking a liking to Diana long ago when Diana was still a little girl. She tells Diana, meet my tree. Diana says, are you sure it's a tree? Persephone says, yes, she's very small right now, just as you are, but one day she will be great, just as you will be. I walk around the underworld every day. That I must be here, in part because wherever I walk, life follows me. But in the underworld, it dies almost instantly, almost all of it. But sometimes something very special is able to break through. Come, show me the rest of your home, Diana. Perhaps we can encourage more to grow. As Diana says, I'd like that. Mother always needs more plants. Persephone says, have you ever heard the story of how I came to be queen of the underworld? It involves a kidnapping and some very diabolical pomegranate seeds. We are then taken to now in the arena of the damned, Hell, where we see Hades has forced Wonder Woman to fight in a gladiator-style arena in Hell in order to free her mother Circe. We see Lady Persephone sitting next to her husband Hades as they watch with her saying, quite the fight. He replies, thank you, wife. I was considering banning magic in the arena. Might make it even more interesting. What do you think? She replies, I think when she beats your chimera with only one arm, it will be hard for you to recover from the shame. I'd leave it, darling. We are then taken to the past in the Wild Isle where Diana is still a girl and her mother begs Hecate, saying, please answer me. I have made all the offerings, said all the prayers, and still you're silent. But this is for Diana and I must demand an audience with you. Hecate finally answers saying, speak fast, Circe. I have only seconds. Circe says, of course, I don't know how to get Diana out of Hell. When the time comes, I mean. How will I do this impossible thing? Hecate tells her without actually telling her, ultimately saying, long ago, when I first saw that Hera was right about Zeus and that Zeus would eventually come for the Amazons, I impressed Hades with a simple but diabolical story. Not long after, a new game emerged in his arena. The way has been prepared as she looks at a story called The Lady or the Tiger. We are then taken back to now as we see Diana continuing to fight the Chimera, as her mother Circe is forced to watch, chained and silenced so she can't speak any magic spells to help her daughter. We're then taken back to the past as we see Circe reading the story of The Lady or the Tiger to Diana as a little girl. As we learn, the story is about a princess who fell in love with a handsome young man who was not a prince. When her father, the king, realized this, he sent the princess's young suitor to the arena. The king said it was a place that allowed the gods alone to decide someone's fate, but everyone knew that was less true than he claimed. In the arena, the young suitor would face 2 doors. Behind one door was a beautiful young woman to be his wife, and the promise of a long and happy life. Behind the other was a tiger and certain death. But you see, the princess, still very much in love, had told her suitor she would discover which door held freedom and signal to him so that he might live. But then the princess learned that the beautiful young woman behind the door was someone she was deeply jealous of, a woman who the suitor had once loved, and who the princess had long hated. A choice that had been painful, but relatively easy on the face of it. It suddenly felt like the worst kind of punishment the young princess could imagine, sending her love off to be happy with someone else while she remained trapped and alone. She could imagine no fate more painful, and in the morning when her suitor stood before the princess ticked her head in one direction to indicate which door the suitor should choose. And so he did, and with that the story ends, leaving the reader to decide where the princess told her love to go, to be happy without her, with a young woman she despised, or to the tiger leading him to his death. Because if she can't have him, no one can. And when the story ends, Diana's like, wait, what? That's the end? But we don't know what happened. Her mom answers, I think that's the point, darling. Diana says, but I don't understand. Did he live? What happened? Her mom answers, that's all that's there, Diana. We could read it again when you're a bit older, perhaps. Diana says, I don't want to read it again. It's horrible. The comic then brings us back to the present, where we see Diana is still fighting this gigantic tiger woman thing, and then brought back to the past again, where we see Diana is a little bit older and she's rereading the story with her mother. As the two continue to talk about the meaning of it, which fate the princess chose for the suitor. But even years later, Diana still does not understand the point of the story. We're then taken to the present again, where Diana tells the Chimera, I am sorry, sister. Like many of us, your life was not your own. I take no pleasure in your pain, but if you will not yield, you leave me no choice. Yield and fight another day. But of course, she does not yield, as Wonder Woman says, I see. We're then taken to the past again, where Diana is much older now, and while she's chopping something with an axe, she says, by Hecate, I'm not the princess. Realizing that the focus of the story shouldn't have been her figuring out which decision the princess made, because she's not the princess. No, she's the suitor, the warrior in the arena. We're then taken back to the present, where she has her opponent in a headlock, as she says, she's beaten Hades, do not make me kill her. But Hades replies, only one of you may leave the arena, princess. Diana says, if you force me to kill her, Hades, for nothing, for sport, then you are no god. I thought you might be, and it will draw a faithful line between us. Hades gets mad and says, you say this to a god? You say this to the lord of the underworld? And with that, Diana is forced to kill her opponent, saying, rest easy in your next life, sister. Forgive me. Now this pisses off Diana a lot, as she wipes blood from her lips, saying, Hades, you are no god, no lord. You are a warden of a prison, nothing more, as her eyes light up with red and electricity or energy coming from them. As Hades says, you dare? Diana gets even angrier as red energy or electricity starts shooting from her eyes, saying, I do. You are but an errand boy chained to this forsaken place by Zeus. As she rises in the air with energy, blowing everything around the arena. Hades asks, how is she this powerful? Diana says, you know why I'm so powerful. It is because keeping me here is unjust. It is shameful, and everyone who knows of it knows the truth of injustice, and it demands a reckoning. But your reckoning is not today, Warden. No, your time will come. And in the meantime, I believe we have a game to finish. A question of two doors. As we see, Diana is indeed not the princess in that story she was told growing up, but rather the person who has to choose the door. Hades says, pick a door, princess, so I no longer have to look at your insolent face. Behind one door is certain death. Behind the other is freedom. But before you choose, your mother should know that should you find the door to your freedom, you will never be able to return to her. You will be barred from the underworld until your death. You will lose your daughter forever, Circe. Your wild isle will be the barren stone it was when you first arrived for all eternity. As we see Circe cry, Hades continues to say, make your choice, princess. The hour grows late and I grow weary of your company. So Wonder Woman makes her choice, opens the door while saying, thank you for trusting me, mother. Hades says, what's this? Did I stutter? You've won your freedom and you may not return. As Wonder Woman breaks her mother's chains, she says, about that. It seems I had occasion some time ago to eat a diabolical pomegranate seed your wife gave me. Hades asks, what have you done, Persephone? She then reveals, I've done nothing but feed her one of your treasured seeds. 1 month in the underworld per year for every seed eaten. I, of course, learned that rule the hard way. Diana learned it in love and was given the choice. She didn't even blink at the sacrifice, more than I could say for most of us. And so Diana may and must return to the underworld for 1 month every year. Unless, of course, would you like to break the rules of the seeds? You'll have your win, but you will lose your bride. So be certain, husband. Hades then, pissed off, says, this is not finished, princess. You've made a grave miscalculation and a motivated enemy. Diana replies, so have you. Diana then tells Lady Persephone, I am forever indebted to you, goddess. You have restored my mother to me, a debt I can never repay. And on the last page of the comic, we see Diana fly her mother back to the Wild Isle. And when she drops her mom down, she says, I cannot stay. If I touch the Wild Isle, I have to stay for a month. Her mother says, I know. Diana says, I'll send you a message as soon as I build the heron in Gateway as planned. I fought the Tetracide, mother, and do you know how I won? Your lasso. It was the answer. It saved everyone, including me. In Hecate's name, fare thee well, mother. Her mother replies, Hecate's name, daughter. And with that, the issue ends. What can I say, friends? Absolute Wonder Woman is another amazing title and entry into this absolute line of DC books. I think it's safe to say that the Absolute Universe is one of the best things not to just happen to the DC universe in a long time, but comic books in general. The stories across the board are fantastic, compelling, and fresh takes on each of the characters. And I cannot wait to keep reading Absolute Wonder Woman and the rest of these titles. titles. In fact, this was just the first story for Absolute Wonder Woman. We're gonna cover the other issues in the coming weeks. But what did you guys think of this first story arc for Absolute Wonder Woman? Are you digging it? Are you digging the Absolute Universe and all their titles? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments, and we'll see you next time when we talk about all things comics.